It was supposed to be a typical Tuesday evening. I had a few things I wanted to take care of after work, drop by the store, take care of a report for a client, but I finished early. By 4:30, I had the whole evening ahead of me. I decided to head home, skip the errands, and spend some time with my wife, Claire. We hadn't had much alone time lately, and I thought it'd be nice to surprise her. I parked my car in the driveway, grabbing the groceries I'd planned to buy and heading inside. The house was quiet, too quiet. The door was unlocked, which was unusual for Claire. She was always cautious about locking up. I didn't think much of it at first, just assumed she'd gone out to run errands or maybe was resting. But as I walked in through the front door, I stopped dead in my tracks. There, sitting in my favorite chair, the one I always plopped into after a long day, was a man. A man I didn't recognize. And Claire? She was sitting on the couch, laughing. No, not just laughing, giggling. Her eyes were bright, her posture relaxed, her hands wrapped around a glass of wine. The man in my chair looked like he was in on some inside joke, completely at ease. I stood there in the doorway, my groceries forgotten in my hands, feeling like the world had shifted under my feet. Neither of them noticed me at first. They were too absorbed in their conversation, their laughter filling the room. It wasn't the kind of laughter that happens between two people who've been married for years. It was light, flirtatious, the kind of laughter that feels new and exciting, the kind of laughter that happens when you're enjoying someone else's company in a way that doesn't involve your husband. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, my heart pounding in my chest. I wanted to walk in, say something, confront them, but I couldn't. I didn't know what to say. How do you react when you catch the person you thought you knew the most, laughing and enjoying themselves with someone else? I stayed frozen, watching them, my mind racing. Finally, the man noticed me standing in the doorway. His smile faltered for a split second, and that's when Claire turned around. Her face shifted from one of amusement to instant panic. Her expression dropped as her eyes locked with mine. I watched the color drain from her face. "Cole," she began, standing up quickly. "I didn't know you'd be home so early." My eyes didn't leave her as I set the bags of groceries down on the kitchen counter. My voice came out steady, almost too steady. "I can see that." The man stood up too, straightening his shirt and looking at me nervously. "Hey, man, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Who are you?" I interrupted, my voice low. His eyes darted to Claire, then back to me. "I'm Mike. Mike from her work?" I nodded, though I didn't believe him. Claire had never mentioned a Mike before, not in the entire time we'd been together. I could feel the walls closing in around me. The air was thick with tension. "Mike?" I repeated, taking a slow step forward, not taking my eyes off Claire. "And you two are friends, I assume?" Claire opened her mouth, then closed it. The words didn't come. Yeah," Mike said, his voice awkward now. He reached for his coat, clearly uncomfortable. "I should probably head out." "Yeah," I said, my voice tight. "You should." He glanced at Claire one more time, then hurriedly grabbed his things and left, almost too quickly. The door slammed behind him, and then there was silence. The kind that presses down on your chest, makes you feel like you're suffocating in the space between you and the person who used to be your everything. Claire stood by the couch, her hands wringing together, her face flushed. She didn't know where to look, at me, at the floor, anywhere but in my eyes. I took a slow breath and walked toward the kitchen, reaching for a glass of water. I needed something to steady my hands, something to ground me in this moment that felt unreal. "Cole, please, don't say anything yet," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I couldn't look at her. Not yet. I turned back around to face her, the knot in my stomach tight, pulling. "You want to explain this? Explain what the hell just happened?" I didn't mean for it to happen like this," she said, her voice trembling. "It's not what you think." I swallowed hard. The words were coming, but they felt wrong in my mouth. I didn't want to accuse her, but I couldn't just stand here pretending everything was fine. "Then what is it, Claire?" I asked, my voice rising now. "Because right now, all I see is you laughing with a man who isn't me. A man who I don't know, in my chair, in our house." She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. She reached for me, but I stepped back, holding up a hand. "I need to know the truth, Claire. I need you to tell me what's going on. Now." She stood there, frozen, her eyes wide, caught between panic and guilt. Her lips quivered, and for a long moment, she didn't say anything. My heart hammered in my chest, the weight of the silence pressing down on us both. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what was happening. All I knew was that everything I thought I knew about my marriage had just shattered. I never meant for this to happen," Claire whispered, her voice barely above a breath. I shook my head. "Then what is this? What exactly happened, Claire?" She reached for me again, but I stepped back, my hands up in defense. I couldn't let her touch me. Not like this. "I swear, it's not like you think." "Mike," He's just a coworker. We've been working late together. It wasn't supposed to go this far. It's just, I don't know. Things have been so strained between us, and when he was around, it felt like someone finally understood me. I stared at her, trying to make sense of the words. Understood you? Strained between us? What the hell are you talking about? Her voice cracked as she took a step forward. I don't know when it happened, Cole. I didn't plan for it to go this far. I never thought it would. But it did. I interrupted, my voice rising. You did it, Claire. And now you expect me to sit here and listen to you explain why it happened? You betrayed me. She closed her eyes, tears spilling down her cheeks. She was crying, but it didn't feel like genuine remorse. It felt like guilt. The kind of guilt that comes when you've been caught, when you know you've lost everything, but you don't know how to fix it. I never stopped loving you, Cole, she said, her voice trembling. But I got lost. I didn't know how to fix things with us. You've been so distant lately. I felt like I was losing you. And Mike, he was there. He listened. He made me feel like I mattered. I clenched my fists at my sides. So what now? You think this was the answer? Running to another man. She wiped her eyes, but it didn't stop the tears. No, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to understand. I don't want to lose you. I stepped back, turning toward the window, my mind racing. I needed space. I needed to think, but all I could hear in my head was her voice, her confession, replaying over and over again. I couldn't make sense of it. This wasn't supposed to happen. We weren't supposed to be here. You should have talked to me, I said, my voice hoarse. I've been here. I've been right here, Claire. But you didn't come to me. You ran to him. I know, she whispered. I know. I didn't know what else to say. The words were there, but none of them felt right. Nothing could take away the sting of what had just been revealed. I wanted to scream, to shout, to break something, but I couldn't. I was too tired, too drained. All the energy I'd spent trying to hold our marriage together had been sucked dry. I don't know what to do with this, Claire, I said, finally turning back to face her. I don't know if I can forgive you. She nodded. I don't expect you to. The silence between us stretched again. It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't peaceful. It was just empty. There were no more words to say. I don't know if I can stay in this marriage, I said, finally letting the thought out loud. I don't know if I can keep pretending everything's okay. You betrayed me, and I don't know how to come back from that. Her face crumpled at my words, her hands shaking as she wiped at her tears. I never wanted to hurt you. You have to believe me. I never wanted this. Then why did you do it? I demanded, my voice sharp. Why didn't you come to me? Why didn't you just tell me you were unhappy? I thought I could fix it on my own, she said, her voice breaking. I thought I could fix us without having to admit how broken I was. And now look where we are. I didn't answer. I just stared at her, trying to make sense of what was happening, trying to put the pieces of the woman I thought I knew back together. But nothing fit. Nothing made sense. I reached for my coat, and as I slid my arms through the sleeves, I looked at her one last time. I need space, Claire. I need time to think. She nodded again, her face pleading with me, but I couldn't stay. I couldn't stand in that house anymore, looking at her, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. I walked out the door, not looking back. The car ride was quiet, and my mind was a mess. Everything I thought I knew, everything I trusted, everything was shattered. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what came next. I just knew I couldn't go back there. Not yet. I drove aimlessly, letting the road take me somewhere, anywhere but home. But even then, I couldn't escape the questions, the anger, the hurt. The man who had been sitting in my chair, the man who had become her safe space, was still a shadow hanging over me. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing. I was no longer the same person who walked into that house. I didn't know where I was going, but I kept driving. The road seemed endless, the headlights of passing cars blurring by in streaks of white and yellow. It was like I was running, but I didn't know from what. From Claire? From the truth? From the mess that had suddenly swallowed my life whole? The sound of the engine was the only thing that kept me grounded, but even that was becoming a distant hum, like the whole world had gone quiet around me. Eventually, I pulled over at a gas station. I didn't need gas, but I needed a break. I stepped out of the car and walked around, breathing in the cold night air. My thoughts kept circling back to Claire and the man in my chair. Mike, the man she'd been laughing with, the man she'd shared my home with, my space, my life. I pulled out my phone, almost out of instinct, and saw a message from Nate. You good, bro? Haven't heard from you since this afternoon. I stared at it for a moment, unsure of what to say. Nate had been my sounding board, the guy I could always count on. But this was something different. It wasn't just about sharing feelings or venting about work. This was about everything I thought I knew being torn apart. I typed out a quick response. I'm not sure. I need some space to think. I hit send and stared at the screen, feeling the weight of the message sink in. Was I really considering what he'd said? Taking a break? Or was I already preparing for the inevitable? The moment when everything fell apart completely? I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know if I wanted her back or if I wanted to move on. My mind was clouded with anger and confusion. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, her desperate look, the way she tried to explain what she had done, but the words had already lost their meaning. I didn't realize how much time had passed until I heard my phone buzz again. It was from Claire. I'm sorry, Cole. Please. I don't know how to fix this, but I'll do whatever it takes to make it right. I need you. I read the message, my chest tightening. She needed me? After everything? After the betrayal, the lies, and the man in my chair? My hand shook as I typed a reply, my fingers hovering over the keys for too long. I don't know if I can do this anymore. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The words felt like a knife to the gut, but they were the truth. I didn't know if I could keep pretending that everything was fine, that the trust could be rebuilt after it had been shattered so completely. I leaned against the car, staring out into the distance. The night was still. The world felt still. But inside, I was anything but. I spent another hour driving aimlessly, my thoughts scattered. Eventually, I found myself near the lake, the one Claire and I used to visit when we were younger, when everything felt simpler. I pulled over to the side of the road and got out of the car, walking down to the water's edge. The moonlight reflected off the surface of the lake, the water calm and untouched. I sat down on the rocky shore, my feet dipping into the cool water, and let my mind wander. How did I get here? How did we get here? Claire and I used to dream together. We used to talk about our future, our plans, the house we wanted to buy, the kids we wanted to have. We were supposed to be a team. And now it felt like all those dreams were built on lies. I ran a hand through my hair, frustrated. This wasn't just about the affair. It wasn't just about her betraying my trust. It was about everything we had become, about how she had turned to someone else when things got tough, about how I had failed to see the signs, how I had failed to see her. The silence around me was deafening. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. I spent the next hour sitting by the lake, trying to find something, anything, that could help me make sense of it all. But I couldn't. Eventually, I drove home. My hands still felt shaky on the wheel, but by the time I pulled into the driveway, I was at least a little clearer. Not completely, but enough to know that I couldn't keep running. I had to face this. I had to face her. Whatever came next, I had to deal with it head on. As I walked through the door, the house felt different. Still, empty. The same walls, the same furniture, the same space. But it wasn't the home I remembered. It wasn't the place where I had built my life with Claire. Now, it felt like a prison. I set my keys on the counter and walked to the living room. The silence pressed in on me, like a weight I couldn't shake. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting to find her sitting there, waiting for me. She was on the couch, eyes red, face pale. She looked small, vulnerable, like a person who had just realized everything she had taken for granted had crumbled in her hands. I didn't know where you were, she said, her voice quiet. I was worried. I looked at her, the anger rising in my chest again. Worried? After everything? You were worried. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't mean for this to happen. Please, let's fix this. I shook my head. I don't know if I can, Claire. She looked down, her tears starting again. I don't know how to fix it either. But I love you, Cole. Please don't give up on us. I stared at her, the weight of her words hanging in the air. Love. It wasn't just a word anymore. It was a decision. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't sure I was ready to make that decision. I stood there, staring at her, and for the first time, I saw how broken she really was. Not the confident, successful woman I married, but a fragile person, teetering on the edge of something they didn't know how to fix. It wasn't just about me. It wasn't just about us. It was about her, about the decisions she made when she thought no one was looking, the cracks that had been forming inside of her for a long time, only to finally spill over in the worst way possible. I stood there, heart pounding, unsure of what to do with this woman who once meant everything to me. The woman who, in a single moment, had turned everything upside down. I can't just forget about it, Claire, I said, my voice hoarse with emotion. I can't forget what you did. You let someone else into our lives, into my space, and you let him get too close. You let me get too far away. She flinched, as though my words had physically hurt her. She looked at me with wide, apologetic eyes, but I didn't care. I didn't want her apologies anymore. I wanted the truth. The truth that seemed so impossible to find in the mess of lies we had built. I know, she whispered. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I was so lost, Cole. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't talk to you. We weren't we anymore. And Mike, he was there. He was someone who cared, who listened. Is that what you think it was? Just someone to talk to? Is that really what you're going with? I was seething now, but not because I wanted to fight. I was angry because I couldn't wrap my head around it. I couldn't understand how she could betray me like this and still believe there was any way back. How could she think that this was something that could be fixed? That apologies and tearful confessions would suddenly erase the months of secrets? I didn't mean for it to go this far, Cole, she said again, her voice shaking. I never planned for it. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. My words felt like stones in my mouth. You did hurt me, Claire. You hurt me in a way I don't know how to come back from. She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I never wanted to hurt you. You have to believe me. But I can't go back. I can't undo it. I just want to fix it, but I don't know how. I don't know how to make it right. Making it right isn't just about apologizing, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. It's about not doing it in the first place. It's about not crossing the line when things got hard. When things got bad, you went to him. You didn't try to talk to me. You didn't try to fix us. You just went and found someone else to take my place. To listen to you. To make you feel important. To make you feel seen. I didn't do it because of that, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I did it because I thought I was losing you. I thought I was invisible to you. I thought we were drifting so far apart that I wouldn't be able to fix it. Her words hit me like a punch in the gut. Invisible. That was what she thought I had become. But all I could think about was the countless nights I had spent trying to make her feel loved, trying to make us feel like we were still a team. And I had failed. I had failed in a way I hadn't even realized. I don't know how to feel right now, I said, my voice quiet. I don't know if I can keep doing this. You've broken something in me, Claire. Something I don't know if I can fix. I'm not asking you to fix it all at once, she said, her hands trembling. I just want a chance. A real chance. To prove that I can make it right. That we can fix this. I looked at her, her tear-streaked face full of desperation. She was asking for something I wasn't sure I could give. And maybe that was the hardest part of it all. That the woman I loved, the woman I had promised to stand beside, was standing in front of me, begging for another chance. But I wasn't sure I could trust her again. I wasn't sure I could believe anything she said anymore. You're asking for something I don't know if I can give you, I said finally, because I'm not sure you believe in us anymore. Not really. I'm not sure you believe in me anymore. I do, she whispered, her voice breaking. I swear I do. But I need you to see that I made a mistake. I need you to see that I want to make it right. I don't want to lose you. I stared at her, my chest tight with all the feelings I hadn't let out. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But I didn't. I stayed still, unsure of what to say next. The future that once seemed so clear now felt like a fog, a path I couldn't walk without tripping over everything in my way. I don't know if I can forgive you, Claire, I said softly. And I don't know if I can stay in this marriage if I'm going to keep feeling like this. Her eyes searched mine, but there was no answer she could give that would change the way I felt. It wasn't just about her affair. It wasn't just about Mike. It was about the cracks in our foundation that had been there long before he ever entered the picture. It was about everything that had been left unsaid for too long. I don't want you to leave, she said, reaching for my hand. I'll do whatever it takes. I pulled my hand away. I need time to think, Claire. I need time to figure out if I can even want this anymore. She nodded, her face falling. She opened her mouth to say something else, but the words didn't come. Instead, she just stood there, looking at me, and for the first time, I realized how far we had fallen, how much we had lost. I walked past her and out of the room. I couldn't stay in that house anymore. Not right now. Not until I could breathe again. The next few days were a blur of emotion, confusion, and an overwhelming sense of loss. I stayed in a hotel. The house felt like a cage, a place where memories and trust were shattered beyond repair. The silence between Claire and me was unbearable, but I didn't know how to bridge the gap. The air in that house was thick with unspoken words, things that had been left unsaid for too long. I spent my days in the hotel, pacing. My mind never stopped. It was a constant cycle of thinking about the past, trying to piece together what had gone wrong, wondering if it was ever even right. I couldn't think straight anymore. I couldn't sleep. I barely ate. Everything was a mess, and I didn't know where to start cleaning it up. Claire called me every day. Texts, voicemails. Sometimes I'd answer. Sometimes I wouldn't. I didn't know if I wanted answers or just the comfort of silence. I wasn't ready to face her yet. I wasn't ready to hear her apologies, knowing full well that nothing she said could change what had already happened. No words could fix the betrayal. No words could fix me. On the third night, I finally called her back. I wasn't ready to hear her plead for another chance. But I also wasn't sure how much longer I could hide from this. From her. From us. Hello? Her voice was tentative, almost as if she wasn't sure if I was going to pick up. Hey. There was a long pause before she spoke again. Cole, I don't know where to begin. I'm sorry. I need you to know that I'm not asking you to forgive me right now. But I'm asking for a chance to fix this. To show you that I can be the person you need me to be. I sat in the dark of the hotel room, staring at the window. I don't know if I can believe you, Claire. I understand. I understand that I've broken your trust. And I know you're angry. I know you're hurt. But I need to tell you that what happened with Mike, it wasn't about you. It wasn't about him. It was about me. I was drowning, Cole. I was drowning in the distance between us, in the fact that I felt like you didn't see me anymore. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know what to do. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of her words hit me like a wave. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to rage at her, tell her that nothing could excuse what she did. But as much as I hated it, a part of me understood. A part of me felt the same ache she was describing. I felt the distance too, Claire, I said quietly, my voice rough. But I didn't go to someone else. I didn't betray you. I didn't. I know, she cried, cutting me off. I know. And I hate myself for it. I don't know why I did it. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know how to fix it. But I want to try. I want to make things right. I want to be the woman you thought I was. The woman you fell in love with. I let out a breath, not knowing how to respond. The weight of her words was too much. My heart wanted to believe her, wanted to believe that she could fix this, that we could go back to the way things were. But my head kept reminding me of the facts, the cold, hard facts that could never be ignored. You can't fix it with just words, Claire, I said. You can't undo what you've done. I know, she whispered, but I'll spend the rest of my life showing you that I can change. I'll prove it to you, Cole. I'll prove that I can be the wife you deserve. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. I wasn't sure I was ready for that. I wasn't sure I could ever see her the same way again. I need time, I said, the words finally coming out. I need to figure out what I want. What I need. I don't know if I can go back to the way things were, but I can't make that decision right now. I need space. There was a long pause on the other end of the line, and when she spoke again, her voice was thick with emotion. I understand. I'll give you all the space you need, but just know that I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I didn't say anything more. I couldn't. I wasn't ready to promise anything. I wasn't ready to make any decisions. But what I was sure of was that I needed to find peace again. I needed to find myself again before I could even begin to think about us. The next morning, I woke up and packed my things. I wasn't sure what was next for me, but I couldn't stay in the hotel any longer. I didn't want to be stuck in a cycle of loneliness and confusion. I needed to go back home. I needed to face the reality of what was happening, no matter how painful it was. When I walked back into the house, it was eerily quiet. The space was too still, too heavy. Everything felt like it was suspended in time, waiting for a shift, waiting for someone to make a move. I walked into the living room and stood in the doorway, the same chair, the same spot where Mike had been sitting. It felt like a lifetime ago, but the truth was, it wasn't. It was still very much a part of my reality. I sat down on the couch, exhaling deeply. I had no idea what was coming next, but for the first time in days, I felt like I was finally taking control. I was finally taking the steps I needed to find the answers I so desperately needed. I wasn't sure if it was the beginning of the end or the end of the beginning, but I knew one thing. I couldn't do this alone anymore. I had to face whatever came next, and I would. I spent the next few days trying to regain my footing in the house. The silence between Claire and me was suffocating, but it was necessary. Every word I'd said, every moment I'd spent with her since the betrayal, felt like I was inching toward a cliff, too afraid to take that final step, yet not knowing how to turn away. I wasn't ready to make decisions. I wasn't ready to talk about the future. All I wanted was time. And yet, every corner of the house reminded me of the pieces that were now shattered. The photographs of us, once carefully placed, now seemed like nothing but distant memories of a life that no longer existed. I found myself staring at them, wondering how I could have missed the cracks, how I had allowed us to drift so far apart. That evening, I went for a walk around the neighborhood, hoping the fresh air might clear my head. The leaves were beginning to change, signaling the start of autumn, and yet it felt like everything had stopped in time. The world kept moving, but I was stuck. When I returned, the house was still empty, save for the quiet hum of the refrigerator. I didn't want to sit alone in the silence, so I grabbed my phone and scrolled through the messages I'd ignored earlier. A text from Nate popped up. Hey, man, you good? If you want to talk, I'm here. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know if I needed to talk, but I needed something. So, I typed back, can we meet up tomorrow? His response came instantly. Of course. Let me know when and where. The next day, we met at a local bar, a place where we could grab a drink, shoot the breeze, and not talk about anything too serious if I didn't want to. But I was pretty sure I needed to talk. We sat in the corner booth, and after the first round of beers, Nate leaned back, giving me a knowing look. "So, what's the deal?" he asked. "What are you thinking?" I sighed, rubbing my temples. "I don't know. I really don't. I don't even know what I'm supposed to feel right now. I'm angry. I'm hurt. But I'm also confused. I don't know what I want from Claire from this. I'm not sure I even know who I am anymore." Nate was quiet for a moment, taking a sip of his drink. "That's the hardest part, man. I know. But you can't let her or anyone else dictate how you're supposed to feel. You need to figure that out first." I trailed off, unsure how to put the mess in my head into words. I don't even know if I want her back. I'm not sure if I can even trust her anymore. It's like the whole foundation of our relationship was just a lie. That's understandable. It's a huge betrayal, and it's not something you can just brush aside. Nate leaned forward. "But don't make any big decisions right now. Don't jump into anything. Give yourself time to figure out if you even want to try. Maybe things can be fixed. Maybe they can't. But right now, you're in shock. And that's okay." I nodded slowly. He was right. I was in shock. It wasn't just the affair. It was the feeling of losing the life I thought I had. The life I thought we had built together. And the idea that Claire had become someone so unrecognizable to me. It wasn't just about her betrayal. It was about the relationship, the trust, the memories. All of it had been contaminated. "I don't know how to move forward," I said, the words catching in my throat. "I don't know what I'm supposed to feel, what I'm supposed to do. I can't just pretend like everything's fine. I can't just ignore what she did. But I don't want to stay stuck, either. I can't just keep living in this limbo." Nate stared at me for a long moment before responding. "Look, man, you don't need to have all the answers right now. You don't need to know what's going to happen tomorrow or next week. What you need to do is give yourself permission to just be right now. Don't rush it. Don't pressure yourself. Take it one step at a time." I let out a breath, the weight of his words sinking in. I guess I've been trying to figure it all out too quickly. I've been pushing myself to know what comes next, but I don't know what I'm supposed to want. "And that's fine," Nate said, giving me a half smile. "You don't have to have it all figured out right now. Just breathe. You're not alone in this. And if you decide that you want to try to fix things with Claire, then that's your choice. But you need to make it your choice, not based on what she wants or what anyone else expects." I nodded, feeling some of the weight lift off my shoulders. Maybe Nate was right. Maybe I didn't need to rush through this. Maybe I just needed to sit with it for a while, to let the confusion and anger settle before making any decisions. We talked for another hour, mostly about things unrelated to Claire and the mess she'd made. It helped. It felt like my mind was starting to clear, just a little. When I got back to the house later that night, I found Claire's things still packed up, sitting by the door. She had gone back to her sister's house after our conversation, and I wasn't sure if I was supposed to feel relief or guilt. But what I did feel was the growing realization that I couldn't keep running. I couldn't keep pretending like everything was fine. It was time to face what came next. I needed to figure out whether this was the end, or whether I could still find a way to make it work. But either way, I knew it had to be my decision. The following days felt like I was living in a fog, constantly battling between anger, confusion, and the smallest sliver of hope. I didn't know how I was supposed to move forward, but I knew I couldn't stand still anymore. Every corner of the house reminded me of Claire and the life we had, what we had thought was real, and what I now realized might have only been a version of it. Nate had been right about one thing, taking things slow. I had spent the last few days letting everything sink in, but there was still so much left unsaid. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. Every time I walked through the front door, I could almost feel her presence, like a shadow hovering just out of reach. I hadn't spoken to Claire since our last confrontation. She had called a few times, but I hadn't answered. Part of me wanted to hear what she had to say, but another part of me knew it would only hurt more. What could she possibly say that would make everything go back to the way it was? I couldn't trust her anymore, and I couldn't let myself pretend I could. But I couldn't keep running from the reality, either. On the fourth night after our fight, I found myself staring at the messages Claire had left on my phone. One of them was a text that read, "I know you're hurt. I know you're angry, but I just need a chance to make it right. Please, just talk to me." I didn't respond right away. Instead, I stood in front of the window, watching the streetlights flicker in the distance. Part of me wanted to shut the door on her completely, to tell her that this was the end, that she had crossed a line I couldn't come back from. But another part of me, the part that still loved her despite everything, was asking for one more chance to talk. I took a deep breath, scrolling to her contact and calling her number. "Hello." Her voice came through with a tremble, and I could hear the raw emotion behind it. "Cole, I'm here," I said, my voice steady but distant. I didn't know what to say next. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice cracking. I'm so sorry for what I've done to you. I've been thinking about it nonstop, and I know words aren't enough, but I need you to understand that I never meant to hurt you. I don't know if I can believe you anymore, I said quietly. I don't know if I can believe anything you say. I get that, she whispered. I don't expect you to trust me right now, but I need you to know that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make things right. I'll do anything to show you that I'm not the person who made that choice. I'm not that woman anymore. I felt a pang of something, maybe guilt, maybe grief, but I pushed it away. But you were that woman, Claire. You can't just erase what you did. You can't just take it back because you're sorry. I'm not sure I can just forget about it. I'm not asking you to forget, she said quickly. I just want the chance to prove to you that I can be the person you thought I was. That we can still find a way to fix this. To fix us. I was silent for a long time, trying to make sense of everything. Part of me wanted to say the words that would end it all, to tell her it was over, to stop pretending I could fix something that had been broken beyond repair. But another part of me, the part that still clung to the idea of us, was willing to listen. You want me to believe that you can fix this? I finally asked, my voice softer now, that everything you've done, everything I've seen, doesn't change who you are? Doesn't change what you've done? She was quiet for a moment. Then, her voice barely above a whisper, she said, I know I can't erase it, but I promise you, Cole, I can change. I can be better. I can be who you need me to be. I just need you to let me show you. The silence that followed was heavy. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to respond. I didn't know if I could believe her. Part of me wanted to hold on to what we had, to try to fix this. But another part of me knew that it was going to take so much more than just a promise. It was going to take trust. And trust, once broken, wasn't something that could be easily fixed. I need time, I said, my voice thick with emotion. I can't make any decisions right now. I don't know what I want. I don't know if I can even look at you the same way again. I understand, she whispered. I'm not going anywhere. I'll give you the time you need. I didn't know if that was enough. I didn't know if I was enough. But for now, it was all I could give. Time. Space. A moment to figure out what was left. I'm not promising anything, I said, the words coming slowly. I'm not saying we'll fix this. But I'm not saying we won't either. I just need you to know, she said, her voice full of emotion, that I love you. I love you more than anything. And for a moment, I almost believed it. Almost. I ended the call without saying anything more. I wasn't ready to make any promises. I wasn't ready to give her a chance. Not yet. I wasn't ready to open my heart to her again. Not after everything. I sat in the silence of my living room, the phone still in my hand. I didn't know what came next. I didn't know what I wanted, but I knew I needed to figure it out. For now, I was just breathing. The next morning, I woke up with a headache, my body still tense from the conversation with Claire the night before. It was hard to get the words out of my head, her pleading tone, the promise she made to change. But no matter how many times I replayed the conversation, the question remained, could I believe her? Could I move past what had happened? I didn't know, and that uncertainty was eating at me. I spent the day avoiding my phone. I didn't want to read the texts, didn't want to hear her voice. I needed space to think, but it was hard to find it in a world that seemed to be closing in around me. Even with everything I had, it wasn't enough. The trust was gone. The certainty was gone. By evening, I was sitting in the living room, a bottle of whiskey by my side, staring at the empty chair where Mike had sat. The space felt so much bigger now, so much emptier. I tried to concentrate on the TV, on something that might distract me, but it didn't work. The silence felt deafening. There was a knock at the door. My heart jumped, but I didn't get up. I knew who it was without even having to check. Claire. She was standing there when I opened the door, her eyes red from crying. She looked so different from the woman I had married, more fragile, smaller somehow, as if all the life had been sucked out of her in the past few days. I just want to talk, she said, her voice quiet. I didn't answer immediately. I didn't want to talk, but I also couldn't keep avoiding her. I stepped aside, letting her in. She looked around, her gaze lingering on the empty space between us, and then she sat on the couch, not too far from where I was sitting. The distance felt like a chasm. Cole, she began, her voice wavering. I know you're hurt. I know I've hurt you more than I could ever explain, but I need you to know that I didn't do it to hurt you. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I know you didn't mean it, I replied, my voice low and controlled. But you did it anyway, Claire. You let it happen. I was desperate, she whispered, her hands clasped together in her lap. I thought I was losing you. I thought you were slipping away, and I didn't know how to get you back. Her words hit me harder than I expected. It wasn't just about the affair. It was about the desperation she had felt, the fear that had led her down that path. I didn't know whether to feel sympathy for her or disgusted by the choices she made in her panic. You think this is about me being distant, don't you? I said, suddenly standing up, walking to the window. That I wasn't giving you enough. That I wasn't there when you needed me. Not just that, she said quickly, but it was part of it. You were always busy, always distracted, and I didn't know how to make you see that I needed you. I needed your attention, your love. I felt like I was invisible to you. I turned to face her, my heart heavy. You weren't invisible to me. You were never invisible to me, but I didn't know what was going on inside your head. You didn't tell me. You shut me out. I didn't know how, she whispered. I didn't know how to talk to you anymore. And then Mike, he was there. He listened. He understood. It wasn't about him. It wasn't about needing him. It was about feeling like I wasn't alone anymore. Her words were a mix of truth and justification. I could hear the guilt in her voice, the regret. But it wasn't enough. I wasn't sure it ever would be. She had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. You could have come to me, I said, my voice more strained now. You could have talked to me. You could have told me you were struggling, Claire. I would have listened. I would have fixed it. But you didn't. You chose to go behind my back. You chose to find someone else. And now, I don't know if I can ever trust you again. She stood up then, walking toward me. She reached for my hand, but I pulled it away, not out of anger, but because I wasn't ready to let her touch me. I don't expect you to forgive me, she said, her voice barely audible, but I need you to know that I'm truly sorry. I need you to understand that I never stopped loving you, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to prove that I can be the woman you deserve. I can't change the past, but I can change the future. If you'll let me. I stared at her, feeling like I was drowning in the sea of emotions crashing through me. Her words, her guilt, it was all too much. And yet, in some sick way, I still wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that things could go back to the way they were. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again, Claire, I said, the words breaking my heart. I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't know if I even want to. But I can't make that decision right now. I need more time. She nodded, taking a step back, her face falling. I understand. I'll wait, Cole. I'll wait for as long as it takes. But as she turned to leave, I realized something. I didn't know if I would ever be able to forgive her. And that realization was more painful than anything else. The door clicked shut behind her, and the silence returned. But this time, it felt different. It didn't feel like peace. It felt like an end. The days that followed felt like a surreal haze. I walked around the house like a stranger, my mind constantly replaying the same conversation with Claire. The way she had begged for another chance, the way her eyes had pleaded with me. I had told her I needed time, but that time was stretching on, pulling me in different directions. Part of me wanted to fix things. I wanted to go back to the days when everything felt simple, when I could look at Claire and see nothing but love. But that part of me was getting smaller and smaller every day. I was waking up angry, falling asleep exhausted, and in between, I couldn't focus on anything but her and the mess we'd created. It wasn't just the affair. It wasn't just Mike sitting in my chair, taking my place in my own home. It was the bigger picture, the cracks in our relationship that had existed long before that night, the years of emotional distance, the moments we had missed. And now I was standing at the edge, unsure of whether I could even look at her the same way again. I had kept to myself for the most part. I went to work, came home, and avoided her texts and calls. But eventually, Claire came by again. It was one of those days when I had finally gotten the courage to sit down and sort through everything that had been spinning in my head. I wasn't expecting her, but I also wasn't surprised when I saw her standing in the doorway. She had that familiar look, red eyes, hesitant, unsure of how to approach me. "Can we talk?" she asked softly, her voice quiet, almost unsure. I sighed, rubbing my face with both hands. "I don't know what more there is to say. Please, just hear me out," she said, stepping inside before I could even respond. She shut the door behind her and stood there for a moment, gathering her thoughts. "I know I've done everything wrong. I know I can't undo what's been done, but I can make things right." I turned to face her, leaning against the wall. "Claire, you're asking me to pretend like nothing happened, to just pick up where we left off, but I can't do that. Not right now. Maybe not ever. I don't want you to forget. I don't want you to just pretend it didn't happen," she said, her voice shaking. "I want to prove that I can be the person you need. I'm willing to do whatever it takes." I stared at her for a long moment, letting her words sink in. I could see the desperation in her eyes, the regret, but that wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to undo the damage she had caused. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you for this, Claire," I said finally, my voice quiet but firm. "And I'm not sure I even want to try." Her face crumpled as she stepped closer, but I took a step back, not wanting her to touch me. "Not yet. Please, don't say that. Please don't give up on us." "I'm not giving up on you. I'm giving up on us," I said, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. "There's nothing left to save. You tore everything apart, and I don't know if I can pick up the pieces. I don't know if I want to." She reached out for my hand again, but I pulled away, feeling the weight of her touch pulling at me. "I know it won't be easy," she said, her voice trembling. But please, give me a chance. Let me prove to you that I can change. Let me prove that you mean everything to me. I could see the sincerity in her eyes, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. The trust was broken, and I didn't know if it could ever be rebuilt. I need time, Claire, I said, my voice heavy. I need time to figure out what I want, what I need. But I'm not promising anything. I'm not promising we'll get back to the way things were. She nodded, her shoulders slumping, but there was something in her eyes, hope. It was the kind of hope that made her believe that I could forgive her, that I could forget the betrayal and move forward. But I wasn't sure that was possible. I'll give you the time you need, she said quietly, but please know that I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I could even look at her again the same way. And as she turned to leave, I realized something. I didn't know what I wanted anymore. When she left, the silence returned, thick and suffocating. I sat on the couch for hours, staring at the empty space where she had stood. It was too quiet, too still. The house felt foreign to me, like I was living in someone else's life. The life I had built with Claire was gone, replaced by a version of her that I didn't recognize. And maybe, just maybe, it was time for me to stop pretending I could go back. I stood up, grabbing my phone. There was a message from Nate. You okay, man? I'm worried about you. I didn't know if I was okay. I didn't know if I would ever be okay again. But I had to make a decision soon. I had to decide whether I was going to walk away from her, from everything we had, or whether I would try to rebuild something that might never be the same again. I ran my hands through my hair and replied to Nate's message. I don't know what I'm doing. I really don't. The truth was, I didn't. But I couldn't keep running from it. I had to face it, whatever it was. The days after Claire left that night were a blur. I kept telling myself I needed time, space, to think things through. But I was still caught in a whirlwind of anger, betrayal, and uncertainty. I'd gotten used to the silence. At first, it had been deafening, like a weight pressing down on me. But eventually, it felt like a strange kind of relief. It was a silence that no longer carried the noise of lies, of promises made and broken. It was just empty. I didn't see Claire for several days after that. She called a few times, sent a couple of texts, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. I wasn't ready to hear what she had to say anymore. I wasn't sure I could stand to hear her beg for forgiveness, to hear her try to justify everything she'd done. The truth was, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the image of her with Mike, her laughing, so at ease, as if nothing had changed. That image had burned into my mind, a scar I wasn't sure would ever heal. I spent most of my time at work, or just aimlessly walking around the house, trying to make sense of everything. I cleaned. I rearranged the furniture. It didn't help. Every inch of this house had memories attached to it, memories of us, of the life we'd built together. The chair she'd sat in, the kitchen counter where we'd prepared meals together, the bathroom where we'd shared quiet moments. All of it felt like a lie now. Every corner held a secret, a betrayal I couldn't ignore. Then, one afternoon, Claire showed up. She knocked at the door, hesitantly, like she wasn't sure if she was still welcome. I opened it slowly, not sure what to expect. She stood there, her eyes swollen, her face pale, like she hadn't slept in days. Her hands were shaking as she held her purse tightly, her fingers gripping the straps like it was the only thing keeping her together. I need to talk to you, she said quietly, her voice breaking. Please. I didn't know what to say. I had already told her I needed space. But this was different. I had given her the silence she'd wanted, the distance she'd asked for. But now she was standing here, looking at me like she had nowhere else to go. Claire, I said, my voice tight. You've had your chance to explain. We've talked, but I can't keep doing this. I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again. I don't expect you to, she said quickly, her voice soft but steady. But I can't walk away knowing you think I don't care. I can't leave knowing that I didn't at least try to make it right. I stepped back, giving her space to enter, but I didn't invite her in. I wasn't ready for that yet. I've been to therapy, she said, her eyes never leaving mine. I've spent days, hours, going over everything I did, everything I didn't do. I know I can't change what happened. I know I can't fix the past, but I need you to know that I am sorry. I'm sorry for the pain I caused you. And I know it's too late to ask for forgiveness, but I want to show you that I can change, that I can be the person you deserve. I closed my eyes for a moment, swallowing the lump in my throat. Her words hit me in a way I didn't expect. I could see the genuine regret in her eyes. But was it enough? Could it ever be enough? I don't know, Claire, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't know if I can look at you and forget everything that's happened. I don't know if I can forget the way you betrayed me. Her eyes filled with tears, and for a moment, I thought she might break down. But she didn't. Instead, she stepped closer to me, her voice trembling as she spoke. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, she said, but I will spend the rest of my life trying to earn it. I just need you to know that I love you, and I'll never stop loving you. I'm sorry for everything. I don't want to lose you. There was silence between us for a long time. The air felt heavy, thick with the weight of the past few weeks. I wanted to say something, anything to make this better. But the truth was, I didn't know how. I didn't know how to move forward. I didn't know how to let go of the past and trust her again. I can't promise anything, I said, my voice shaking slightly. I can't promise that we'll go back to how we were. I don't even know if I want that, but I'm willing to try. I'm willing to see if we can rebuild, but I can't do it alone, Claire. You have to show me that you're ready to fight for this. You have to show me that you're willing to do whatever it takes. She nodded, her eyes filled with gratitude and determination. I will. I'll do whatever it takes. I didn't know what the future held, and I didn't know if we could make it through this. But for the first time in weeks, I felt like I wasn't facing this alone. I wasn't sure if it was the right decision, but I was willing to try. I was willing to take a chance. I'm not making any promises, I said again, my voice steady. But I'll try. For us. Claire stepped forward, and this time, when she reached for my hand, I didn't pull away. We stood there in the quiet of the house, both of us knowing that the road ahead wouldn't be easy. But maybe, just maybe, we could walk it together.